The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, and welcome to a special edition of the Grow Giver podcast with Stephen Crawford, Justin Hoke, Malcolm Finlayson, and today we have our very special guest, our mentor, Pace Morby. Pace, thank you so much for being here with us tonight, brother.
I love the freaking name of this podcast, dude. What a great name. Who came up with that name?
That's all Justin.
Yeah. Basically, you changed my life by recommending that I read the Go Giver book. After reading that book, it totally changed the way I think about money. Coming from a real heavy evangelical background, I thought money was bad and had no clue how to use it. And so the idea of building wealth through giving totally radically changed me.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought process. I was standing in my garage this morning. I was looking at all the tools I had in my garage, right? Like, it's funny how we collect tools in our lives so we can work on our own house and maybe even help our neighbor, right? So like the more tools I have as a handyman or like contractor guy, I assume I can help a lot more people. But for some reason, we never think about money as another tool that we can help a lot of people. And the more you collect, the more tools you collect, even financial tools, the more people you can help. Like I was also thinking today on the flight from Phoenix to Orlando, I was like, what's the biggest problem I'm solving right now in the world? Like, what's the biggest problem I'm solving? Is it, people's financial literacy? Is it whatever? And we started talking about like, how do I solve not only people's understanding of creative finance? We've been doing a great job with that. How do I now change the ability for real estate agents and brokers nationwide to understand creative finance by actually creating a tool in their continued education courses that they're required to take and get licensed to give away portions of sub-2 and seller finance education to all agents in all 50 states. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That's a very cool, powerful thing. That's an amazing thing. I could change the world. But I was like, is that the biggest thing I was meant to solve? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the biggest problem that you are solving today is it just the stuff in your personal world? Are you just trying to get to a point where you don't have to worry about money anymore? Great. But the second you hit that, what's the next problem that you're going to solve? So here's where this all ties into tools. When I have a drill, I don't know why, but all of a sudden I need a drill all the time. There's things for my drill to do. But when I don't have drills and I don't have all these tools in my garage, magically the universe doesn't send anything to fix. And so for me, it's like I need to collect financial tools because I know then the universe is going to send me problems to solve with those tools. It is the weirdest thing. And coming from even my background, Justin, very similar to that, not evangelical, but religious and also blue collar, you look at money as just a way to pay bills, not to actually go out and change the world around you, which sounds almost impossible if I jumped into a time machine and told myself that 15, 20 years ago. It's weird.
Yeah, no, I think that is like a hard thing for people to wrap their head around. Like, especially like you're talking about, like if you're blue collar or, you're just not, maybe you didn't grow up with a lot of money. You just kind of don't even understand money. And I think that's like one of those things that until you get that education, you just can't wrap your head around what it can do. Like you said,
you're a perfect example of this, bro.
What?
You're a perfect example of this. Right.
Yeah, well,
even when I met you a couple of years ago to who you are today, you have prolifically changed and upgraded yourself. And knowing where you'll be in 2 years from even today, you literally will not recognize yourself today in 2 years, just like 2 years ago, Stephen wouldn't recognize today's Stephen. It's so cool how you like tear these layers off yourself to find the real true Steven, the real true Justin, the real true Malcolm. It's like, how fast can I pull these layers away to find the real person, along the way? It's all about personal development. And again, your freaking podcast name is Gangster. I freaking love it. Sorry, I deviate. I just love to tell you guys.
No, I think that's like a super interesting thing to think about. Like I was watching, I rewatched the podcast you did with Steve Trang. I know you've done several of them, but there's one in particular that people always bring up. I know they always bring it up to you. And it's the one where you talk about $20K per month in 4 months cash flow. And the reason I rewatched it is because, I was one of those people. I watched it, maybe a couple months after it came out. And, there's that whole story, how I got to that point watching it. But I wanted to rewatch it to see what was in that podcast. Yes. Community. I wanted to see what was in that podcast, like that made people, I don't know, relate like to you and actually want to take that step in personal development and like maybe even take like more, I guess, like when it's at that point, like when you're talking about like you don't have anything and you want to break from having nothing to having like, say it is like whatever your goal is say it is $20,000 cash flow per month, like to actually like reach out and like maybe spend money on something is personal development. It's like it's a risk, and how that podcast got people to take that. What we know now isn't really a risk. It's I don't know,
an investment.
It's personal development, but at the time it feels like a risk, and I think it's shoot, man, I think it's that you were so close at that point, to that zero mark and just how fast that leap was forward, and it was your personal development and you expressed like your personal development and how it could go like in a flash, and you gave directions and you explained it and you didn't hold anything back. And I think that podcast, like I'm not even sure you realize how key that is to like the success of the community you built. Like, I think that like that podcast is just so key. As I rewatched it, I always knew it was, but as I rewatched it, I realized how amazing that like interview was.
Isn't that interesting? Like how full circle this is coming around, Steven? Because like I go on that podcast, I had no aspirations to become a coach when that podcast came out. No goal, no nothing. That was my second time on Steve Trang's show. We were friends, and in Arizona, people knew me as the creative finance guy, but nobody in the country knew me as that creative finance guy until I think that podcast. And everybody in town was sending me all their dead leads for like the last, while. Steve has me on the show. You then, Steven, watch the show. You join the community like right in the very beginning. And here we are now. I'm on your podcast.
Right.
Which is freaking so cool. Like, I wish I could go back to myself and just right before I went on that podcast and go, hey, just so you know, this podcast is going to propel other people into self-development, and they're going to go and change their lives and improve not only – because that's the cool thing too is like you guys, the Grow Giver podcast, you guys are growing yourselves, but you guys are also giving it back to all these – you're giving it back to the sub-2 community. You're giving it back to everybody around you. Like, you guys are all three dramatically different human beings from when I first met you. It's freaking cool.
Yeah.
I really agree. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I agree with what you're saying, Steve. I don't know for anybody else that knows us. We all know each other for a long time now. It feels like nothing, and it feels like forever in the good sense of it. It's sort of like I remember that long whiteboard, and you were just getting into it when we joined the sub-2 community, but it's now been at least 2 years, bordering on 2 years that we've been involved with you and getting to know you. And my wonderful wife, Paula, vetted a lot of mentors and just knew you to be a real person. And she is very, very careful with who she vets. But watching you grow has been really amazing. But watching how you brought people together, and you brought Steve and I together first, really. And it's been very impressive. And I love the way at first it was about creative finance, but you really found your niche with community, and your talk at exactly the talk at the Brad Sumrock conference about community was just right on point. I was really impressed by it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was just downstairs in a VIP event for Jake and Gino. I'm speaking on stage here tomorrow. And Ryan Serhant, if you guys know Ryan Serhant from $1 Million Listing, big, very, very famous guy. He was just on a panel downstairs in the VIP section, and we were talking about the future of personal development. So it's interesting. Like you watch people that scale to a certain point, and then you go, okay, but now do you have it all figured out? Like, do you know your next step, or are you as clueless today, just at a higher level? You're as clueless today about your next step as you were 5 years ago, clueless about your next step. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it's interesting to think about. So like people that are first listening to this podcast, wherever you are in your journey, I can tell you the number one most important thing that I've done in my life. I wish somebody told me to do this when I was in high school, in my early 20s, was to invest in myself. Okay. What does that mean? Jump on a plane, spend the money. Me buying a plane ticket to go get into the right room, to be around the right person, to create the right relationship with somebody who's in sync with me and has the similar goals. That's an investment in myself, right? Go to an event, pay for an online course, do whatever it is. The ways of like college are going away. In the next 10 years, college will be like, unless you're going to an Ivy League school, people are like, why are you going to college? Like, you can learn all this stuff online and jump into these amazing communities. Wherever you are in your journey, you have to understand that that investment is the most important thing. So I'm curious for you three boys and myself. The question is, what is the next step in all of your evolutions? Like, what's the biggest problem in in your individual personal development? All three of you guys. What is your next step that you feel like you're struggling with? I'll start. Okay. I'll start. This is an interesting conversation.
Yeah, go for it.
What I've not done well in my life, and what I've also done well, is this weird thing. I've created this ecosystem around me. So I have 9 businesses that have 9 operators in charge of them. So I can go out and be the front man, right? The promoter, the guy that's creating the vision. Every one of those businesses came from my brain. Most of the employees were recruited by me. I for the first year of these businesses, I was heavily involved, but then I go, all right, it's time for me to go and drive revenue and drive attention to this business. So I got to take a step back. Okay, well, all of these businesses have people in charge. And I have a massive army of amazing people that I delegate certain things to. Okay. So like, I'll name them. Molly, right? How amazing is Molly?
That's insane.
Right? Molly's amazing.
Right.
Carly, Melissa, Adesawa, Kelly, Giselle, Tony. You've got Amanda. You've got Allison, Heidi. Okay. I have 13. By the way, all of them except for 2 are women. So shout out to all the women in my life. I have a lot of people that take things off my plate that I can push really, really hard, and they all kind of have to deal with my chaotic nature all day long. But you know what I don't have? Which one of those women is my personal assistant? Any one of those?
No.
So who is my personal assistant? Somebody that does as much as I do. How do I not have a personal assistant?
Do not know.
What would that role would they fill? Like, what would you want them to do?
Great, bro. These are the questions I wish somebody told me 5 years ago, because this is what I didn't know this. And I was watching these guys. I'm like, okay, I'm watching other people and I'm building businesses and I'm hiring high level people. I need a third arm. Okay.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I'll give you very specific stuff. Like this morning, I woke up at 3, like I do. I clear out my inbox. I answer my emails myself. Even the ones I shouldn't be answering, I'm answering them myself. And at my level, which I'm, 5 steps ahead of where I was 5 years ago, but in 20 years, I'll look back at myself on this podcast and go, man, I sounded really stupid. Welcome to evolution. But somebody else should be answering probably 60, 70% of my emails. Okay. Who booked my flight here? Me. Who booked my hotel here? Me. Who communicated with the people at the speaking engagement? Me. Who did you guys send the link to this podcast? Me.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I drive so much attention to all of my businesses and everything I'm doing that my team can barely even keep up with me. And so I've had a hard time finding a personal assistant that can even keep up with me. So what I do is my mitigation to that is I wake up at 3 and don't let anybody bother me until 6 o'clock in the morning. And I do everything an executive assistant should be doing. Instead of me going to the gym or me reading a book or me doing whatever, I am holding myself back. Okay. And then this is a funny thing. Okay. So last year, I knew I needed an executive assistant. So I find Molly, but immediately I'm like, Molly's above executive assistant. So I took her from like, I think when she met me, she was probably making 60 grand a year. Now she's making more than double that working with me. She's my business partner and things like Molly is a unicorn. I found a unicorn. So you don't keep that unicorn in the stable. You let that unicorn out in the pasture and freaking let it run around and fly around, right? You let it stretch its wings. And so that's what we did with Molly. So I'm like, crap, now I don't have an executive assistant. So I have this interview with Robert Kiyosaki's ex-assistant.
Wow.
Okay. 13 years she was Robert Kiyosaki's executive assistant, and we get to interview her. And why did I not hire her, guys?
I don't know.
I'm guessing she's done that and isn't motivated anymore, or she can't keep up, or she wants
you're thinking way too deep. You got to remember, this is a really stupid decision I made.
You couldn't let go of the you couldn't relinquish that to her?
No.
What is it?
I was so excited about this lady because I'm like, think about if you're Robert Kiyosaki's personal assistant for 13 years, how many people do you have in your Rolodex that you know you could get on speed dial?
Just the insight and exactly, the people.
Why didn't I hire her is because she was looking for $130,000 a year. And my first initial thought was, it's too expensive.
Seriously, Pace? These days, that's even cheap. I mean, I think
it is. But I know I'm just tying it back into what Justin said at the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
We have these things that are holding us back that we're not even aware of. And this lady, she goes, okay, great. Yeah. You know what? We'll follow up and blah, blah, blah. So my HR lady, she calls her and she says, hey, what do you think about Pace's offer? And she's like, oh, she goes, I immediately got off the phone call with you and I took another offer with somebody else that had already offered me 5 days before. I had researched Pace Morby. I was excited to work with him, but I didn't know he was cheap. So I decided to take a different job.
Oh dear.
So guys, I'm still going through personal development. I don't have it all figured out, right? We're all working and learning and doing these things together. And Justin, the transformation that you're currently going through of like, hey, money's a tool. This is good. Money is an amazing thing. Making money is an amazing thing. And it's my duty to make money. Those things are still, there's like 1% of that still in my brain that I got to shake out. It's like, this lady's too expensive. So I don't hire her. And now I've gone a year without an executive assistant. Think about if I hired that lady at 130 grand, do you think she would have made me an extra $1 million by just letting me do what I do?
For sure.
Easy.
Stupid.
But I got to ask a question, Pace. I'm not at your level, but I wouldn't call myself cheap, but I call myself frugal. Okay. Firstly, I think frugality, but it's also, are you willing to release control? I mean, I'm not at the same scale, but it's like, I'm trying to say, I'm not going to do the gardening anymore. I'll get a gardener in. But I like to do gardening because I enjoy it. But it's been a task for me to say, I need to get somebody in, or I need to get somebody in to do this task or do that task and free up my time for other things. Do you think it was only about money, or do you think, because I've been reading a lot about who, not how recently, and that is getting me to move and say, I need to find the right people to do the job, not try to learn the how. Do you think it's not just, that was just a good excuse to not release yourself? I'm curious.
I think earlier in my life, that's what it was. Do you guys know my story about Anna, how I hired Anna?
No, I don't know that one.
Okay, so check this out. This is a great thing. Am I okay to just talk?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go for it.
go for it.
Okay, cool. So here's a great story. So about 10 years ago, I'm building my construction business, right? And maybe this is like 11 years ago. It's a good amount of time ago. And I have a business coach. I'm paying him $500 an hour. Okay. So, okay, well, let me back up because I don't tell this story often. So let me make sure I set this properly so you understand the context of it. So, you know, I'm contracting, I'm fixing and flipping, I'm running a couple of construction crews, and you know, making good money, 30, 40 grand a month. Really, really good. This is probably 12 years ago. And I decide, man, I should go and become a loan officer. A lot of people don't know I was a licensed loan officer for 2 years. I went and became a loan officer, not to deviate from construction, but to go out and get 203K loans for all my clients. Because I'm sitting here, they're buying houses. They're like, we don't have money. We're going to go get a 203K loan. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm sitting here getting paid by all these 203K programs as a contractor. I'm like, I could get paid as the lender. Like I'm referring all this business to these 203K lenders. I'll just go get my own, you know, LO license. So I go get licensed. Takes me about 6 months, and I go work for this guy. And he says, you know, you have to be on a team when you start out as an LO. And I would show up. I go, look, I'm only here to do the 203 stuff or 203K stuff. I have a very successful construction business. And he says, tell me about your construction business. I tell him. He's like, that's not a successful business. That's a hobby. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, you don't have anybody you're working, like nobody, you're not delegating. You're literally doing everything yourself. Like, what are you doing, man? You know? He goes, here, if you want to be on my team, and he's the top guy, okay? Top guy in all of Arizona, top LO. I wanted to be on this guy's team. And he gives me a requirement to be on his team. Guys, I'm making 40 grand a month. And he says, you need to go hire a guy named John Bohm, okay? Bohm. Not that you need to memorize that, but John Bohm now is the head mental coach for the Arizona Cardinals. Okay, this guy's a big deal. And he says, you need to go hire this guy or else you can't be on my team. I go, okay, cool. How much is he? And he goes, that's the wrong question. Go meet with him, you dumbass. And I go, okay. So I go sit down with him, and John goes, all right, this will be $500 an hour. $500 an hour. Now I realize that $500 an hour is incredibly cheap for high-level advice. Okay,
Sure.
12 years ago, podcasts, YouTube, stuff like this, like it did not exist at this level. It was there, but it was like dancing cats and weird stuff. Like it's become so easy to get access to really good information. But what you really need is you need accountability. And that's actually what John Bohm gave me. So John Bohm, I sit down with him, I go, okay, I guess I got to pay the $500. In the first meeting, John Bohm like changes my whole life around. He reshifts my paradigm. And he says, I'm going to show you how this $500 investment, you will look back at this and go, I should have been paying him 100 grand. And I should have. I literally now look back at these meetings, and I would have, if I had the money, I would have written him a check for $100,000 just to sit down with him for the 1 hour every single time. The fourth time I meet with John Bohm, my business is like cranking away. I'm fixing little problems here and there because he's like, you know, he's looking at my business from the outside, and I'm going and I'm an action taker. And so I go fix the problems. And on the fourth meeting I have with John, he says to me, and this ties back into your question, Malcolm, I'm not deviating. I just want to make sure that the audience has context to this. So he says, this will be our last meeting. And I'm like, what do you mean this will be our last meeting? He's like, I'm like, and I'm sitting here like kind of like an asshole. Like, you don't want my $500? Like, you're going to tell me you're going to turn down $500 an hour? Now I look back, I'm like, dude, people now, you know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, people would offer me 25 grand to spend a weekend with me. And I'm like, no, absolutely not worth my time. I am not doing that. So, John says, this is going to be the last time we're meeting. And I said, what the hell? Like, why? And he goes, I'm firing you as a client. Okay, why? He says, because you won't listen to me. I'm like, what are you talking about? I did all these things. And he goes, dude, You chose the low-hanging fruit. The number one thing I told you to do is go hire an assistant. Go hire an assistant. And I'm like, okay, I'll go do it. And he goes, okay, I'm going to give you one chance. Next month, I will be sitting here either drinking my coffee that we would meet at Starbucks. And he goes, I'll either be drinking my coffee by myself or you'll be here with me because you will have hired an assistant to actually take things off your plate. And I'm like, okay. So I literally go out that day, go on Craigslist because I didn't know how to hire. You know, I'm 20 now. I'm at this age, I'm 20, 25, 26, right?
Wow.
Don't know a lot, but I'm making a lot of money and having a good life. So I get a hold of Anna. Anna lives in LA. She's like, hey, I'm kind of in a bad situation in my relationship. I'm looking to move to Arizona. I go, you're hired. You're hired. Didn't even interview her. I was just like, get your ass out here. Whatever it's got to take, come out here. By the time she was there in a week, and I met with John Bohm 3 weeks after that, that was a total of 30 days. My business and the pipeline that I had tripled.
Huh.
Oh.
And you know, when I hear other people tell these stories like, oh, it blew up my business, it's like, I don't understand. I need to hear more. I need to hear how did it blow up your business? Guys, it was so simple. Anna would actually pick up the damn phone when customers were calling, and two things happened. People that we were already doing business with would now get a hold of Anna, and they're, wow, Pace actually has credibility. He actually has a staff and a team and whatever else. And they would start giving me referrals for other jobs because they believed in me more because I had a team. That was one. The second one is that when I had people calling in on my Instagram, because I was on Instagram at the time, that's where I got a lot of my business from. And I would miss calls, right? And when somebody wants, let's say, Malcolm, your example, a gardener, you want a gardener? You're like, all right, finally, I'm going to take action day. You open up the yellow pages or Google, or you go to whatever, angieslist.com or whatever, and you start calling. And if the first person's not available, what are you going to wait around for their callback, or are you going to call the next person?
Yeah.
You call the next person. And so Anna made it so every call was answered, and it had a professional person on the other line. And I started booking up jobs, and I was like, holy crap, now I got to hire another crew. Oh my gosh, I got to hire another crew. Within 3 weeks, I had to double my entire business. And within 4 weeks, I had to triple my business. I had to go get 4 more crews to handle the business I had in my pipeline. And how much extra business was that a month? It was probably about $150,000 a month in business. But Anna, her payroll was $3,000. At that time, Malcolm,
Yeah.
the answer was yes, 100%. I thought, if it's going to be done right, I'm going to do it myself. I'm gonna put my tool belt on, dude. So John Bohm tells me, one of the best things he says to me, he's like, man, I'm so proud of you. You know how to do all this stuff. You work well with your hands. There's not a single thing. A lot of people don't know this about me. There's not a single trade in a house that I can't do myself. I'm incredibly talented at construction. He says to me, this was the last meeting. About 4 months later, he gets a job with the Arizona Cardinals. He says, this is not a gimmick. This is not a joke. I am firing you as a client because I'm going to go work for the Arizona Cardinals. I was like, man, you changed my life in 6 months, you know?
Yeah.
So he says to me, Pace, just because you know how to install a toilet doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I went crazy. Okay. So this is what I did. I believed in John Bohm so much, and he changed my life so much just in that 6 month stint, that what I did as a contractor is I got rid of my truck. This is when I seller financed my F-150. A lot of people don't know this part of the story. I got rid of my truck so I wouldn't carry shit around.
Good move.
I bought my first Prius because I didn't want to have any ability to put a toilet or anything in my car, because what I would do is that my guys would go, oh, we're missing this from the job site. I go, oh, no worries, I'll go pick it up. And I would find myself in line at Home Depot all the time.
Yep.
And now looking back at, I'm turning 40, I look back and I go, how much freaking time did I stand in line at Home Depot? And the funny thing is, Steve probably can relate to me a little bit more than anybody here. I love the smell of Home Depot.
Oh,
love
so do
to
I.
sell
Don't worry.
lumber.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Right. So I think I would justify that. I would justify, well, I enjoy doing it and I like doing it. Okay, well, great. Is that you die and God or the universe asks you, Pace, what was the biggest problem on the earth that you solved? And if I went to the pearly gates and I said, well, the only problem I solved was that I found out how I could pay my own bills. Is that really a life worth living? Is just a guy that learned how to pay his own bills? No, well, I'm not going to solve those. I'm not going to solve bigger problems by standing in freaking line at Home Depot. So I got rid of my F-150. That's when I seller financed that. I got rid of everything. I got rid of all my tools. I had a big party at my house, a big Christmas party. I told all my guys, I go, take all my tools. Probably had $30,000, $40,000 in tools. Take it all. I don't want a hammer here. I don't want a measuring tape. I don't want a level. I only want some ladders just in case I got to change a light bulb. And then I go, no, hell with it. Take my ladders. I'll call somebody else to change my light bulbs. And at that point, Malcolm, my business went from doing probably about $1 million a month to $3 million a month because I actually would go out and meet with the clients and build the relationships. And then I had the ability. I remember on Instagram, Open Door reaches out to me about a year later, and Open Door says, hey, they DM me on Instagram, and I actually reply like immediately because I'm not sitting on the phone or on a ladder or picking up a toilet or standing in line at Home Depot. I'm sitting there ready to receive the higher blessing because I moved things out of my way and I gave them to other people that are better equipped. And I get this lady, her name is Melissa. She DMs me from Open Door. She says what she says, and I reply, and then she goes, oh my gosh, come in and let's meet up. And in 40 minutes from them DMing me, I was sitting there in their office and they were saying, let's work together. We're going to give you 15 houses today to go do jobs. And that was it. In 2000, I think it was 14, I made my first take home $1 million, and my take home after everything took home $1 million. And it was because I had the ability to do the who, not the how. And I got rid of my tools and I drove a Prius and I started thinking differently. And then it was a couple of years later when Bethany Willis told me, like, why aren't you in real estate? And she changed my life too. But it was that problem for me, Malcolm. It was the problem for me. And now it's different. I have somebody who does my laundry. We have people that clean our house. And I look at it. So like, let's get literal. Okay. So people can like hear this. Are you guys okay with me talking?
Yeah, man. Please.
Of course.
This is gold, brother.
Okay. So I'm like, all right, well, what's that going to cost? And I think we come from a place of like, I grew up doing my own laundry. We have 12 kids in my house. And my parents taught me, do your own damn laundry, kid. Like, what are you talking about? My mom never did my laundry after like age 5. I did all my own laundry.
Right.
Folded my clothes, put them away, ironed my shirts, was a missionary in Korea, ironed all my clothes, did all that stuff, got home. My wife, I've never had a wife that ever washed my clothes, ironed my stuff. I did all that stuff myself. Okay. And it became part of my routine. Okay. So like, what's funny is I'm sitting there about a year ago. Okay. This is as recent as a year. And I'm looking at all the things I've gotten rid of. I've gotten rid of my tools. I've gotten rid of this. I got rid of all these things. So I'm not messing around with it. And it's really opened up my ability to work on myself and build relationships and, hone new skills and get better at things that I know is going to make me money. And I have this conversation with my wife. She goes, man, you seem overwhelmed. I go, I feel like I've like really delegated just about everything in my life, but I just need like an extra 5, maybe 6 hours a week and it would change my life. And she goes, sit down and let's like think about this. What could we remove? And I was like, nothing, like literally nothing. And the next morning I'm like, we're in the closet hanging out, our closets, we have a bigger closet. So I actually hang out in there. And my wife comes in, she says, have you thought about like what you could get rid of, what you could delegate? And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm sitting there ironing shirt as I'm saying, I don't know. Like, what could I be doing? And then we're like folding clothes together and we're doing all this stuff. And, we're spending time folding clothes together rather than going to a restaurant or, having sex. As silly as that sounds, it's like, why are two married people spending our time folding clothes? Like, let's freaking bone. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Think of like all the things that we let get in our way. And so I go, to hell with this. I'm going to hire somebody. So the next day I hire a girl. Her name is Donna. She's unbelievable. And I pay her, I think we pay her about $1,000 a month to come 1 day a week. 1 day a week. All my stuff is folded. It smells better than I could ever make it smell. It's ironed. It's put in, it's in order. I walk in, I open my drawer, and all my underwear is like lined up, folded in ways I didn't even know were possible. And then I come home from traveling. I put my travel luggage down. I wake up in the morning and I go to like do my own laundry, and it's already done. And I'm like, guys, I got so much time back. I started reading more books. I started like researching this and doing that and being able to fly and do more things. That $1,000 a month has probably made me an extra $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month in the ability to drive additional revenue to my businesses. And so that's, I think, my next progression is like really finding the things that I need to hire out and say, I'm not, if there's a single thing like regularity of working out, Steve, this is where I think you're doing a really great job of that, is the regularity of working out. I'm going to hire somebody that's like comes to my house every morning and says, all right, let's go. And my thing is like, oh, I got a phone call. I got this. I got that. Nope. Grab my phone, turn it off. No podcast, no nothing. Like get your free, because I'm always trying to drive more revenue to my business, and I'm trying to create content or do this or call somebody or work a deal or raise money or, get on the phone with Molly and spend 3 hours walking around the cul-de-sac talking to my business partners, when I should be taking care of my physical body and I'm not. So like those are some of the things I'm currently working on in my life. What about you boys? What do you guys feel like you all need to get rid of? Things you guys need to automate or hire out or fix? What are some progression points you guys need in your lives?
Shoot, man. These questions are hard. Like some of these things are just like hard to admit. You know what I mean? Like, because essentially you're saying like, you're not doing what you should be doing. Like you said, you should have like you should have a personal assistant. You should have had a personal assistant a year ago. And that's a huge error. And that error has cost you not just money. It's probably cost you time spent doing stupid shit on the phone with people that don't deserve the time, or I guess deserve the time, but I guess your time's just better spent doing other things. You know what I mean?
Well, it is true. Like think about people that I get DMs or I get calls. People will text me and go, "Hey, I need 5 minutes of your time." And I got a call from an agent today who says, "Hey, somebody referred me to you. I don't know much about you, but what is subject to?" And I'm like, I have a YouTube channel. Like, go to my YouTube channel. Like, if you're just curious of what sub 2 is, go on my YouTube channel. Somebody could have deferred that person away from a phone call with me.
Right. And that's before I go into what my thing is, because I'm going to right now, I wanted to also point out that like, those kinds of questions are one of the things that like about that podcast we were talking about earlier, where like you were so close to that, like that starting point, even though you had done a bunch of like personal development and work and you'd already been a successful businessman, but it's just that kickback where you got like slapped back in life and you knew you had to pull up your, yourself by your bootstraps, and you had to get it on, you know what I mean? You had to get it. You had to make it happen. And I think that people really resonate with that, but now you're not at that point, but you built a community, and that community of people, you have a bunch of people who are at that point of that process of making it from zero to that, like that first, like, feeling of like actually being able to start relinquishing some stuff and things like that. I've kind of forgotten where I was going with this, but I got a little lost on where I was going with this, but I think that it's, now you can kind of also like, use your community to answer some of these questions. And that, I think that's one of the smartest things you ever did.
All the people, like even you three.
So cool. But like, that's the point I was trying to make, is like that you now have like these people that are in that position where like, you can be like, what's subject to? Here's a phone number, call them, which is what happens. Like sometimes I'll call you and you'll be like, hey, I helped this guy 6 months ago do this. Call him. and that's the answer, and that's kind of a cool thing too, but here's my thing. It is that in our community, the sub 2 community, I want to be a leader because I think that that'll help me move forward in my life, and it doubles as, also getting to help people who are newer than me get somewhere. And I think that's always been a struggle for me. I think
Why?
that
Like you don't think you're worthy to be a leader, or what?
Real well. What?
You don't think you're worthy to be a leader, or what?
Well, I think that maybe I lack some experience. I kind of also have a 2-pronged thing I was going to bring up. Like I also lack consistency, and I need to work on that real heavy, and I need to become consistent. And then I want to be a leader, but I think it's just got to be done at the same time. I think that if I'm going to put myself in a leadership position, then that's going to force me to be consistent, or I'm just going to look like ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Can I give you a hack? I was thinking about this today. Like, how do I accomplish so much? People ask me, I have 13 people I rely on. Obviously, that's a lot of people, and we have hundreds of employees and all that kind of stuff. But how do I go out and accomplish what I accomplish? Like, I was just down with Ryan Serhant, and I was like, hey, come on my TV show. And I'm developing relationships with high-level people and doing all sorts of stuff. I'm all over the place. I'm flying. It's like, who knows where I'm going to be tomorrow? Right? How do I accomplish so much, right? So here's like my focus, and you guys need to think about this in terms of becoming leaders, right, Steve? So this is advice specifically to what you just talked about. If I want to be a leader, I have to be doing deals, right? Or I have to be helping other people do deals or JV deals. I have to be raising money for deals. I have to be at least like learning more about how to find deals or evaluate deals or whatever it is, so I can continually learn myself. I need to be making money. I need to be creating content. I need to be socializing and hanging out with people. I need to be doing all these things all the time, right? And then that's like normal stuff. Then on top of it, I'm like, okay, I need my sub 2 people to become leaders. Like I need my mastermind students to become leaders. I need them to create their own content, create their own brands, and do their own things, and become pillars inside of the community that we can all build on, including me. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And so I come up with ways that I literally, in a 3-hour time frame, I can accomplish all of those things simultaneously. Okay. So how do I do that? I'll create a free challenge that requires me to be on the phone, working deals, learning, honing my skills on the phone, raising capital, talking to title companies, doing all the things I need to do as a business person, but then also simultaneously helping people, showing people, leading people, demystifying things for people. And then on top of it, building brand, putting out content, like all of these things. Literally, what a lot of people will do is they'll look at like a podcast like this and they'll go, we did a podcast tonight. Check. Okay. Can you list out 15 things that you are doing simultaneously in any moment of your day? And make it so pungent and so like power packed. So like your guys' podcast, right? Steve Trang, great podcast, but he would record it and then post it later. And then he switched it to live so he could now have a live audience and And I was always like, Steve, what you should be doing is you should be doing like deal evaluation so that you're honing it, or you're doing this, or calling sellers, or doing something else. It doesn't mean change your podcast. I'm just saying when you guys go out and you start creating more content, because you all three need to, right? Not just podcasts, but also YouTube and Instagram. Are you accomplishing 15 things simultaneously, or is it just an Instagram post?
Right.
So think about that, because a lot of times the inconsistency is like, man, I just feel like I have so much to do. And if I have the moment, there's a fork in the road that I need to do all the things, or I'm going to take a 45-minute break on the couch or chill out for a little bit, go down, grab a burger, whatever. The human being in us is going to want to go grab the burger, which is fine. But then you do it the next day and the next day. And next thing you know, you're like, 2023 is going to be my year.
Right.
Yeah, I would say you really got me motivated a few months back. It was a Q&A, I believe. and you basically said, because I was always, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to start marketing. I'm going to start, and I'd have all these ideas, but it's got to be perfect before I do it. And so I'd have everything planned out. I'd have, I'd write notes. I'd get excited about what I was going to do, and it would never happen. And you're like, just take action, messy action, go mess up. And it was like something clicked, and it was like, I got to do that. Then I just, because of Keston, the way he teaches us how to, in the Daily Dial, when he gets in there and he's helping out with the folks in the Daily Dial, he says, look, I didn't even watch how to do this stuff. I just go and find Pace's seller calls and watch Pace make seller calls over and over and over again. So that's what the Grow Giver is. It's an extension of me watching you and trying to figure out, how can I copy my mentor?
I love that. Yeah. It's interesting. Like the podcast, think about all the things you guys have learned, right? So like, here's what I noticed. You guys figured out how to get graphics made. You figured out how to get a StreamYard account. You figured out how to post this stuff. You figured out how to work the inner side of the studio on StreamYard. Like, these are things, no joke. Okay. 4 years ago, I'm traveling around the country with Jamil, right? It's 2 years before I decided to become a coach and really build a community. I didn't realize that was even something that I was going to have this prolific talent for, that was like all, unbelievable. Like, everybody else has tried to do what I've done, or they look at me and they go, how do I do what Pace does? I'm like, it's a unique talent that I have that I don't know. I didn't even know I had it until literally 2.5, 3 years ago. Right. But I'm traveling around the country. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, of all places. Okay. And I see Ty the Flip Man Taylor. Okay. Do you guys know Ty the Flip Man?
Yeah, I know who he is.
Okay. So he's on YouTube, and he's the guest speaker at this like RIA. And Jamil and I are speaking. This is like one of the first times I had like a pretty big presence. About 4 years ago, I had my first like decent, pretty big stage that I stood on. And it was in the Birmingham, of all places, RIA. Okay. And I got 6 minutes. That's all they gave us was 6 minutes. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? Now it's like, tomorrow I'm going to be on stage for 45 minutes. And I'm like, I don't have enough time.
Oh yeah.
Okay?
No, we don't get enough of you when you are. I'll tell you that.
So here's what happens. So I see Ty at this Birmingham thing, and I go, holy crap, that's Ty. He has like 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. This guy's insane, man. Oh my gosh. And I'm like fanboying over. So I go over to Ty and I go, dude, what do I got to do? I'm really good on Instagram. I've been good on Instagram for 10 plus years because it's easy. I can do it with my thumbs, right? YouTube's another animal, like getting on the computer and sitting down for a long enough time to get the graphics made and uploaded and all the things. It's not hard. It's just, it needs to be done. And I had creative avoidance. So I walk up to Ty. This is a big room of like 150 people. I walk right up to Ty. I go, hey, Ty, I'm fanboying over you a little bit. You're epic. I hope one day I can create a YouTube channel just like you. And he goes, bro, you could have a YouTube channel tomorrow. What kind of comment is that? And he really put me in my place. Made me feel really dumb and really small. But then he put his arm around me and he goes, let me take you to dinner tonight and I'll show you how I do it.
Oh, there you go.
Wow, that's great.
And what does he teach me? He teaches me StreamYard. And that was the beginning of my journey. And I started screwing around with StreamYard. Now, guys, before I did my podcast, before I even knew StreamYard was a thing 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, it didn't have the features that you guys have today. StreamYard at the time was like very basic. Okay. I was doing a podcast on a conference call. And so all of our podcast listeners would have to call into a 1-800 free conference call and punch in a meeting code. And in order to raise their hand, they had to press #6.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not exaggerating. And I did that for 2 years because I didn't know what I was doing, but I was taking action. I was learning how to get my words out, right?
Right.
Just like what you guys are doing right now. And you're creating and you're molding this version of yourself here. I'm watching you do exactly what I did and exactly what I went through. And so Conference Call HD was what it was called. Free Conference Call HD. Thank you for calling into free conference call HD plus blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like that was the beginning of our podcast. So then I went to IG Live. IG then comes out with IG Live. I'm like, I'm going to do my podcast on IG Live. This is before YouTube had YouTube Live. And I'm sitting there on IG Live and da-da-da. And then about a month later, I meet Ty, and Ty tells me about StreamYard. And he goes, bro, it's so easy. You can stream right into YouTube. It does this, this, and this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, Ty. And that's when I start my channel. And now here's what's funny. And let's see. Ty won't be mad if I bring this up. Let's go to YouTube. I'm going to see if I have more subscribers than Ty now. I don't know if I do. I think he probably is higher than me. But think about that. At one point, I thought 50,000 subscribers was like the goal, and I'll never reach that. That's insane. I can't even believe that. Right? And then here I am, just hit 105,000 people a couple of days ago. Okay, so I love it. He's at 139,000 people. Okay.
So you guys are right there about the same, right?
I've outgrown him, right? If you take the same amount of time, I'm outpacing him.
Right.
And
no pun intended.
I'm not comparing myself. I'm just saying it's funny. The only thing that was keeping me from doing that is exactly what you guys are doing now, which was taking messy action. Like Justin's like, I'm doing this. Let me get my homies in here. Let's do this. Let's get it together, and let's start creating content and start telling stories and start helping and changing people's lives, not only our own and our family, but let's start helping other people's lives. And that's why I was so excited about coming on here tonight with you guys.
Yeah, actually, it always works. I mean, shoot, they like just making a mess and then like having to like solve the mess is how you're
throwing it to the back end, Steve.
The fastest way to grow. What's that?
I said you're throwing it to the back end. Sorry, Steve, but keep going.
No, that was it, man. I wanted to say I just think like there's no quicker way to educate yourself than like imperfect action, and then like fixing the fuck ups, just like let's get in there and let's iron it out. Let's figure this out. Let's figure that out. Let's hammer it out. Let's yell at each other. And then let's get across the finish line.
Now, I think for the occasional one, we're probably not going to get in trouble with YouTube or some of the other places we're streaming to, but be careful, Steve.
Oh yeah.
Family show.
I still got a sailor mouth.
He's got a pilot's mouth, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm a sailor. I've somehow managed to keep it under control, but there you go.
I'll work on it, Malcolm.
I wanted to answer Pace's question as well, because
Malcolm, just before you get to that, let me jump in here real quick. Just I've got to keep up with the housekeeping and whatnot. Pace, your time is super valuable, and we don't want to take advantage of that. And we want to make sure that we respect that. So if there's a timetable that you have, please let us know so that we're not.
My timetable is I want to hear Malcolm and Justin's things that you guys are working on. What are your guys' next big things we got to overcome? And then I can leave. I can't leave until I hear this.
All right. Well, man, I may not ever get to it, brother. No, I'm just joking. Go ahead, Malcolm.
You'll get to it.
Yeah. No, I was just I was going to say the thing that I'm overcoming at the moment is a lot of who, not how, but also how to find the right niche and the right team collaborating with consistency. So, I mean, I've always had an issue of making things consistent, but also finding the right niche and of what I'm doing. And I'm bringing this up because basically at the mastermind, at your mastermind, what was it, only 3 months ago, we're still trying to find a way to where I was going and what I needed to do within this industry as a whole. And my background being very analytical, coming from an engineering sort of perspective, it's sort of like, how do I do what I need to do? And being in front of people, I'm sometimes awkward. I don't necessarily get the communication across properly. So finding these guys above me here on this podcast and being able to team with them and start to focus on multifamily, which is where we as a three are going, has been invaluable. Now, we're still in the dating period, if we're really honest, but we're dating pretty seriously here. But I'm going to struggle with that even now, because it's and so to me, I'm trying to prove to myself that I can do what I don't know what I know, which is hard as an engineer, and then take it and grow it and make that be seen outside of what we're doing. Because it's like, these guys, Steve and Justin, are great frontmen, and I need to be a part of a team, and that sort of really works well for me. But then how do I market that afterwards? So I think I'm in the middle of it, and I think I've got it solved as to where is a really strong way for me to go forward. I just need to make certain it keeps going that way. So
I love that. That's a great answer. I love that you know what you need to do to fix that. That's a really great answer.
Well, I hope I do.
What about you, Justin?
Yeah. To be perfectly honest, I think I told you when the first time I met you at Clever in person, I walked up and I said, Pace, my goal is to care more than you do. And it was because I've been listening to you. I know that one of the reasons why you're so successful, or at least my impression of one of the reasons why you're so successful, is that you genuinely care. You care about those that you're helping. You care about making a difference. You care about your wife. You care about your kids. You care so much. I mean, I listen to people in your calls just melt when you're talking to them. Sometimes it's funny listening to you talk with women callers, because they'll melt in another way. But one of the things that happens is, I'm trying to figure out how to balance the three, body, soul, and spirit, because sometimes I'm getting so wrapped up in the work, trying to copy the things I see you doing, trying to help people. And when I'm having one of those bad days, how to bring up that energy. Because like after Clever, I mean, seriously, I could see it in your face. We all came home with COVID. I don't know if you did or not, but you the first couple of videos, you looked like you were wore out, but you kept going. And I'm like, man, I'm sitting here in bed, a thermometer in the mouth, a warm blanket, and I'm not getting out for nothing. And this guy's killing it. How do I get there? And so I want to, as I'm starting to become the guy in my head that I'm seeing, and I'm not there yet, but as I'm starting to become that guy that I want to be, and my kids and my wife are starting to see this, and they're starting to grow in respect for me, and I'm loving that. What do I do on those bad days? That's so if you're saying, what are the things I want to work on? I want to work on being consistent every single day and showing up every single day like you do.
That's great. I love that. I was just talking to Jamil. No, I wasn't talking to Jamil. I was talking to Eric, my videographer, the other day, and I said, one of my favorite human beings on the planet is Jamil. And Eric's like, why? Obviously you guys are friends, but like, what is the great thing about you and Jamil? And I said, his consistency, you don't see it because he doesn't talk about how consistent he is. He's just so consistent. Like Jamil is a guy that stresses out about consistency, reliability, all of these types of things. And so for me, there's two things in my life that have helped me with consistency. Okay. Number one, hang out with other people that have consistency and like unapologetically tell everybody else it's not consistent. I can't hang out with you. I got to hang out with this guy because they're going to make me consistent. Right. That was number one. And then number two, this is, I think, a personality thing. And so people that are listening to this, you guys have to make a determination if this is a good fit for you. But for me, I have always put very heavy, scary deadlines that will have large impacts if I do not meet them in front of me. Not like, hey, if I don't get a six-pack, I can never have a piece of candy ever again or something like that. It's like I'm committing to a deal and I'm putting 50 grand of my own money, or when I was starting out, $1,000 of my earnest money, non-refundable. I'm finding a buyer on this deal. Doesn't matter. I'm going to figure it out. Okay. I got the, so I'll tell you guys want to hear this is maybe my last story. It's a great story. So how did I build the community that all are enjoying and being together and having a great time with? You guys know the story about Colorado, right?
About Colorado?
You don't know the story about Colorado?
No, I don't think I do.
Dang, you guys are getting some good stories tonight. This is great.
Right, thank you.
I'm having a good time telling these stories. These are great. This is great. Okay, so here's this is about 4 years ago. No, I'm sorry. This is about 3 years ago. So Cody and I at this time had been partners for a year, maybe year and a half. Jamil and I had been traveling around the country, not being coaches, just going out trying to help people, building our personal brands. Didn't know I was ever going to be a coach or even have a Facebook group or a YouTube channel. Like it was back at this point. And I get a deal. Okay. It's a seller that lives in Colorado and it's a house in Phoenix. And the guy used it as a vacation rental for himself. Like they would spend their summers there. His wife gets sick. She's obviously on her deathbed. He goes, we're not going to use the house anymore. I'm going to sell it, whatever. Not highly motivated, right? Not highly motivated. And he says, come up to my house and meet me face to face. Have you guys not heard this story before?
I haven't. Actually,
okay. So he says, I will not sell this deal to you unless you meet me face to face. I want to shake hands and look at the guy in the face that I'm doing a deal with. And I go, okay, great. I'll send a mobile notary. He's like, I'm not meeting with a mobile notary. You get your ass here, or I'm going to sell my house to somebody else. Okay. So I'm like, whatever. We're not going to do this deal. And Cody's like, this isn't even that great of a deal anyway. Why would you even go do it? You know, why would you even go do it? And I go, because sometimes I need to commit to things and sometimes I need to put things in my way that say I have to do this in order for me to figure something out that I couldn't figure out beforehand. And so what I did is I told the seller, I go, I will have somebody at your house in the next 36 hours. And I had no idea who was going to go do that. So I go on Bigger Pockets because I'm thinking, oh, Bigger Pockets can help me.
Yeah.
So I'm going on the forums. People are laughing at me like, blah, 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 I'm not going to do that. Or there was a guy that was like basically going to try and snake me. Okay. Seller calls me, says, hey, somebody called me and told me that you're just a wholesaler. Blah, 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 blah. Some guy on Bigger Pockets went around my back. Right. And I'm like, now I've got like less than 20 hours to get to this guy's house. And this is like a 16-hour drive. So I'm like, forget it. I'm just going to bail on it. I committed to the guy, but I'm just going to bail on it. And then at 1 o'clock in the morning, I spring up because I'm a man of my word and I commit. If I commit, I gotta follow through with it. Right. It will just create nervousness, a stressful twitch in my back because I'm not doing what I said I was going to do. So I wake up at 3 or like, I think it was like 1, took a shower, threw on a pair of clothes, jumped in my Prius, and I drove 16 hours to get up to this guy's house with an hour or maybe 2 hours to spare. And that was a commitment that I made to him. And Cody's like, why are you driving up there? We're not even going to make a lot of money on that deal. And I go, because I needed this. I needed to find out, like, if I could overcome this, right? As a salesperson, I'm trying to always find out, can I overcome this? Can I overcome this? Can I overcome this? It's the same time you do your first lease option, your first sub-2 deal, your first seller finance deal, you raise your first capital, you commit to something, and now you have an impending situation it's going to happen. It's coming up. You got a deadline. You guys have stuff like this going on right now with you. I think you guys have a multifamily deal, right?
Yeah.
The things that are pressuring you, and these are good things, and people that are weak and people that are losers go, I just want to avoid stress. I want to avoid this stuff. It's like, dude, I look for stress. I look for moments where I can be under the pressure. And so, like, I think I was telling Steve, maybe it was Malcolm, I'm like, I can't wait to see what you guys learn from this next trial of being involved in this deal. Doing the deal, not doing the deal, that's not what I was excited about. What I'm excited about is your guys' progression of committing to the deal and going through it and feeling that pressure, the anxiety. Like, I've got a $110 million deal right now. We're raising $60 million for. I've never raised $60 million before in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're only going to have to raise 8.5. That's got my stomach in an absolute frigging mess. So.
Right, and you're gonna learn so many things. So I get up to this house in Colorado, I get the contract. I'm walking out of the house with the contract, and the son says to me, "Oh wow, you actually made it." Blah 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 blah. We get into this whole thing, and he says, "I'm glad you figured it out." And he grabs the contract and he goes, "Oh, this was the last time I ever used $100 earnest deposit. I had $100 earnest deposit. The seller didn't know this. This guy, his son, ripped me a freaking new one right there in this dirt parking lot up in middle of nowhere, Colorado." And I'm like, I drove 16 hours to get my butt like completely stretched open. This guy just dropped the Titanic right inside of my butt. And he says, you need to commit to a $10,000 non-refundable earnest money deposit. And I go, all right, I can do that. So I call Cody. I go, hey, man, this is what happened. Here's the thing. I'm coming home. Let's get this thing sold. He goes, $10,000 non-refundable. He's like, I don't want to do the deal. We're not doing the deal. I'm like, all right, I'm doing the deal by myself. I committed. I put myself up against the wall because I know that is what draws consistency out of me. So when people are like, oh, I don't know how to be consistent. Well, it's because you've never committed to anything that's challenging before and really said, I'm committing to this. And somebody other than myself is going to be affected if I fail. That's the commitment I'm talking about. Because like you committing to doing 100 push-ups or doing this, that, and the other, is like you could lie to yourself. And nobody's going to know it except for you. And of course, it eats at your soul and it changes who you are. The more you lie to yourself, you lose self-esteem, you lose self-worth. But really, when you lie to somebody else and you commit, but you don't come through, now the world knows, right? That human being now spreads that information. And that social situation pushes you to stay consistent. And so for me, Justin, a personality thing for me has always been, what things do I have that I am committed to that have real life implications towards other people in a negative manner if I do not follow through with what my commitments are? And that has kept me consistent my whole life. And so now I pile on as many, of course, I'm not going crazy, right? I want to make sure I honor my commitments, but I'm constantly looking for new things and new challenges and all that kind of stuff. And it requires me, like I'm traveling around, I'm on a plane all the time. I mean, I committed to this speaking event. Then Vina asked me to do a favor for her in Dallas on Monday. So I'm doing that. And then I decided, oh, you know, what's cool is I've got some really amazing investors that are lending money to me. I want to do something special for them. And so I commit to that. And I got a party bus now coming on all this crazy stuff. And then on top of it, I'm like, I'm going to fly to Springfield, Illinois in the middle of all of this. And I'm going to go look at a new 264 unit deal that I'm going to close on in the next week or so.
Wow.
And my wife's like, how are you going to do it? And I go, I'm going to figure it out all the time. I'm going to figure it out. And I think for us men specifically, that is the allure of this amazing journey of life that we're on, is like, you're constantly playing this game and this figuring it out stuff. And so I think that is what has kept me consistent, is committing to things, putting it on my calendar, saying I'm going to do it. Last thing I'll say, Dan Quijano, right? For a long time, I'm like, Quijano, you need to have a sales training boot camp, right? That's not something that I do. I'm a phenomenal sales trainer, but I don't want to be known as a sales trainer. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not my brand. And I don't even want to be known as a multifamily guy. I want to be known as the greatest creative finance investor of all time. That's what I want to be known as, right? So I'm telling Quijano, I go, you need to do this. 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 Okay. So Quijano says, yeah, I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it. Okay. 8 months later, it's not done. He hasn't done anything with it. Okay. So here's what I did. I created a Google sheet with all my travel schedule. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but I created a Google sheet with all my travel schedule, and I put Dan Quijano's boot camp on my calendar, and I announced it to the entire Instagram. I said Dan Quijano's first, right. And now I'm like, and so that's what I mean. You need to be around other people that are going to push you and force you to be consistent and be unapologetic. And Dan Quijano's response was like, bro, I'm not ready. I go, that means you're ready.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
So
it.
if you're not going
You
to
guys
end
are
up,
doing the same thing. You're committing to multifamily deals. You're raising your first $8 million. You're doing these things, guys. Like in 5 years from now, when you're raising $80 million and you laugh at how small $8 million was, you'll go, man, we took the action. We did the stuff. We went through the crap and we kept going. I wish we could do a whole 5 hours of the failures that I've had, that because of the failure, it opened a door that I didn't have access to before that led to $1 million deal. Like literally every little thing that happens to me, we find the silver lining, we find the pile of gold, we find the stuff. So like, no matter what, you guys keeping consistent with each other, being the three amigos and like getting, being on that consistency train, you guys are going to freaking change the world.
thank you.
Well, I don't want to break up the flow. This is going so awesome, but I do want to give folks a chance to find out more about that $50 million raise or $60 million raise.
Oh, it's overcommitted, bro.
Oh, it's already done.
Overcommitted. Dang.
Yeah, I raised that in 24 hours.
That is so tight. So
Good deal.
is the little guy one still open for people to check out? And,
Yeah, we have that one. So that's going to be the challenge. That one's still open. The problem is I'm going to have to adjust what people are investing, right? I've got some guys in there. I can only raise 5 million on the little guy fund, right? Because it's a regulation CF. So the problem is I have like 3,000 people that are on average. I think we have about $60 million just on the little guy fund committed, and I can only raise 5.
Yeah.
Now I didn't
What
see
does
an
that mean?
opportunity.
That means I got to go to everybody and go, you can only invest 1,000. You can only invest 1,000. I know you said you'll invest 20, but you can only invest 2,000 or whatever else. And that's what we got to go through for the next 30 days is figuring that.
No, I love that. Man, that's so inspirational too. Just to see you be able to do that. It's been amazing to watch. I think we all got to watch you and Vina, who was our guest yesterday on the show, watch you guys talk about that deal, and we were feverishly taking notes, or at least I know I was. I want to be able to say and do the things that you guys are doing, and we're so thankful for the help that we've been able to get from you guys and learning.
Yeah, that's a really good thing, Justin, that you guys did, because like go look up Brandon Turner, Tariq El Moussa, go look up these guys and get on their mailing list for their investors. Rod Cleef, right? All these guys, and watch how they do their pitches. You guys will become masters at pitching a multifamily deal. Now, I'm very different, right? Like nobody has the same flow and style as me, because like I'm gonna make my thing fun, right? Like I have celebrities involved. Our returns are gonna be amazing. The returns are gonna be great, perfect, amazing. I don't want people investing in us because of returns. I want people investing in us because they're going to be close to a cool celebrity, have a fun experience on top of the amazing return. And they're like, I'm going to go here instead of to this guy type of thing. And so you guys will figure out your own way. You'll figure out what is your attractive, unique, standout element that you're going to figure out. And you guys, it's fun to watch you guys. And the fact that you're taking notes on other people's pitches, like you're light years ahead of where I was. Light years.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're very, very lucky to have you to reach out to, and because you said a long time ago, I never really understood it until this deal. We've reached out to Vina a few times as well, and just when I invested in the Charlotte deal and got to meet Vina up close and have time with you and meet everybody else in that group, it's that I wasn't just investing money to make money. I was investing for proximity, for being in the room with people, all the rest of that. And the relationships that I developed down there were probably more valuable than the money that I'll make out of it in a lot of ways. So, just it was an education and a masterclass, and just throwing $10,000 like we have already at a lawyer to make certain we negotiate properly for our current deal. That's that level of pain and angst that you have, but you're also learning at the same time. I never knew you needed to have a lawyer to negotiate on your for you when you're trying to put a contract together. But I think you know that I like reading contracts, and but negotiating it is another matter.
Yeah, and these are things that, like, there's no way a module or anybody can really teach you any of this stuff. You have to go through it, and you have to have these moments of, oh, I didn't know this. Like, at least once a day, you need to have those moments of, oh, I didn't know this. Oh, nobody told us this. Yeah, because there's no time in the day to teach you every little thing along the way. You have to just take the action, bump and bruise and scrape along the way. And holy crap, you guys are getting $1 million education right now on this deal you're doing.
Big time.
You guys, depending on how long your raise is going, you know, if we can wrap ours up in the next 30 days or so, hopefully we can come over and help you guys raise some capital if you guys have not wrapped it up yet. But I wish you guys luck on that deal.
That would be great. We really appreciate that. Definitely.
Now, Pace, I'm wondering if we've been pitching this this show for about a week and a half now, letting people know that you were going to be on with us, and I wonder if you would be so kind to interact with our audience just a little bit.
Of course, yeah. I didn't know we were live.
Yeah, we are.
I've just been over here talking crap with my homies.
So I'm trying to go through right now and find some of the questions that have been asked. Mostly what we have a lot of sub-2 students watching, and a lot of folks from the Elephant Challenge that you've been doing monthly as well. A lot of grow givers from our grow giver community as well, and a really good turnout. And a lot of them are just wanting to express their appreciation for you. So I'd be remiss if I didn't share that. There's so many of those that I'm not sure that, you know, I can really highlight too many of them. I mean, literally, I've never had this many questions to try to filter through on the side. So,
guys, I appreciate you. Thank you for even caring about what little me has to say about anything. I appreciate you guys tremendously. I just want to be with my community all the freaking time. Like even right now, I'm 20 minutes late for our sub-2 Orlando meetup. This is the 5th Orlando meetup I've done in 1 year. 5th Orlando meetup.
Florida fan.
Not really.
No.
I mean, I like it. I like it. We own property here. Hey, Ryan, look at Ryan. Ryan's great. You know, I just love being with you guys, and I love being part of your guys' journey. And, you know, Steve, remember when I came out and I drove down to Yuma when you told me your story? I took Bobby down there. This is 2 years ago. And I was just like, at your first property that you did with 0% seller finance and you're cash flowing that money, I'm looking at this guy that like took something that I said on the internet, took action, and changed his life by like just implementing it. And I had not been that happy and excited in my life up until that. I'm like, people listen to me.
Yeah.
and then this guy changed his life. Like, what the freak? This is amazing. And now look at you guys. You guys are in a partnership raising $8 million on a great deal. For anybody that's in the comments right now, if you guys are looking to invest in a deal, make sure you look at these boys. These guys are going to take over the world. They should call their fund the Three Amigos Fund, because these are the Three Amigos.
We got to get the sombreros and everything, the whole outfits. So
yes.
that's how we're going to market it, and that's how we're going to make it.
Pace, can you give us a summarization of how you keep yourself so organized? Here's the shortest answer you'll ever hear. I wake up so early and I spend an hour, sometimes 2 hours a day on my calendar, my email, and my cell phone, clearing out messages, looking at Slack, organizing things, replying to people, really sitting there and pondering what are the things I really want to do. I do that before anybody in my house wakes up. I'm somebody just like you guys that I will have creative avoidance. I will find ways to avoid the things I really need to do because I'm a human. And so for me, I need to put things in my way or at least remove all distractions whatsoever. And what I learned is if I can answer all my emails in the morning, any cleared out text messages I wasn't looking at, while I'm doing podcasts or being on stage or on the TV set, I'm not allowed to have my phone for 50 hours a week. then when 6 o'clock rolls around, I get to spend 2 hours with my kids and my wife and do all the things. I made a joke about me boning my wife on here, and I didn't know we had live people. So anybody on here that got offended, I'm very sorry. It's a family show apparently. So so there's that. And then I also, to be honest with you, here's another answer. Can I be a little cocky?
Go for it.
I'm really smart. And I have a wonderful memory. Hi, Yatong. I love you.
Hi, Pace. I didn't want to interrupt the flow, but I didn't want to miss the chance to say hi to you.
Gosh, I freaking adore you. I talk about you probably once a week to people and just tell people how special you are to me. Appreciate you so much.
Oh, I appreciate you, Pace. This is so valuable. So appreciate you coming to the podcast. And
you know, I think about this the other day, like hanging out with you guys at the mastermind and just spending time with you. And that day that you shadowed me at my house, I just adore you. You're just a special human being. I had this thought recently. Okay, it has nothing to do with you or it's mostly to do with me. But like Michael Foster is like, Pace, can you give us a summarization of how you keep yourself so organized? Great. I already answered that, but let me answer this on another level. When you got married to your significant other, and you're staring at that person, for me, it was on the beach. We got married at Carmel by the Sea on the beach. I had just played 18 holes at Pebble Beach. I had the greatest day of my life. And I'm standing there on the beach staring at my wife, and I'm saying my vows to my wife. And basically, my vows are, I promise, to do all these things, right? Blah, 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 blah. 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, whatever it is, you got to ask yourself, have you been honoring your commitments to that other human being? Are you showing up? If you had to take yourself, what you've accomplished, what you look like, what you feel like, your health, what you've learned, all of the things that you've done, and you jump into a time machine and you go back to yourself the day you committed to your significant other, and you say, this is who you're going to be in 10 years. Would you be proud of yourself, or would you say, man, I got some freaking work to do? And that's one of the things that keeps me organized, is that my wife, yesterday, we're driving to Honey Baked Ham. Little known fact, Honey Baked Ham is a sandwich shop. You guys don't know this, but like you guys are over there buying hams and turkeys and stuff. They're a sandwich shop. They're unbelievable. So I take my wife to lunch yesterday, and we're talking about my wife's fear of like people, I'm in the public eye, I'm on a TV show, blah, 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 all these things. And she gets weird people that kind of, come around. I'm used to it. She's not as used to it. And my wife, we'd start talking about fears and blah, 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 and meeting certain people. And I said, my greatest fear, the person I'm the most afraid of meeting in like open public. She's like, who? I said, the version of myself that's not at tip-top shape, doing everything I promised myself I would. That's the person I'm the most afraid to meet. I don't ever want to see that person. I don't want to ever look them in their eyes. I don't want to ever do this. We have this really great conversation about like choosing the right path, committing to your partner, committing to yourself, building up the self-esteem through commitments to yourself. And I really sat down and I thought, like, did I and have I upheld all the commitments and promises that I made to my wife, my significant other, the day that I married her? And would I be proud of myself, or would I say I have work to do? And we all know the answer. Doesn't matter who you are, me included. We all have work to do. And so when it stops becoming about you, and it has something to do with the people that rely on you, and the people like Yatong, you chose to marry Justin, right? And there was a moment where my wife, when she committed to marrying me, she's like, this man is going to give me the best possible life on the planet. There's no other man on this planet that could give me a better life than the man I'm committing to. And so I want to honor that commitment that she made to me in saying, yes, I will marry you. I have a responsibility as Pace to make sure that she has the best possible life ever. And so when it stops becoming about you, and it has to do about the other person that committed themselves to you and gave their life to you, now you got something that's going to hold you to the fire and keep you keep you committed. So anyway, those are things I just have gone through in the last 24 hours, just thinking through some of these processes. So Mr. Foster, who asked the question, That's how I stay organized. That's how I stay motivated. That's how I stay, committed to the things I'm supposed to be doing.
Now, there's a couple of people that I wanted to highlight to you. Michael Foster is one of them. He is brand new to Sub 2. I met him first in the Elephant Challenge because as I was helping folks do their Elephant Challenge homework, and like the very first one, he jumped in and started being my integrator right away, helping with maps and different stuff. And so Michael is an amazing young man. I'm really excited that he's now part of Sub 2. The other young man that I wanted to put on your radar, his name is Joel. He's in the DFW area. He probably already is on your radar because
I know Joel. Yeah, really well.
19 years old. He's not in Sub 2 yet,
Nope.
But man,
I told Joel a long time ago to not join Sub 2 and work with the students.
Well, he's going to be in one day, and I can't wait. He's going to be amazing. So I'm looking so forward to.
He's great. He's there at Wholesale Hotline. He's there at Sunday service. He's very committed. Makes great comments. He's supportive of other people. He has a very similar culture and vibe of Sub 2, so like it makes sense that he'll end up joining Sub 2 just because of the culture fit. But I told him months ago, I was like, "Don't join, man. Just work with the Sub 2 students."
So next question here. Oh, I'm being told to chuck a bad player out.
We're big fish now. We're being spammed. So
yes.
in the chat.
Oh, you are. You guys, I don't see the comments, so I don't see it.
Carolina Allen asked a question. I want to get her question up here, but I've lost it going after the bad actor there. I think her question was, how do you find any time to sleep, or what time is bedtime if 3 a.m. is when you wake up?
That's a great question. Julie okay, you guys do have your comments on. Okay, great. Julie Burkhardt, I love her. She's great. Ryan Coker-Hands, I love him. Kyle Alexander, good to see you. Iffy, it was great to see Iffy the other day. Caroline, I have like a special place in my heart for Carolina Allen. Adore her. And how do I find time to sleep? I don't know. I don't think I have a really, really profound answer for this, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. And maybe in 10 years, when I hear myself on this podcast, I'll go, man, you were really stupid. Guys, I want to accomplish stuff so badly. My desire to accomplish things so badly, I'm willing to sacrifice 2 hours of sleep every day. And I am probably 80% of my life, I walk around, you don't know this, but I'm nauseous from sleep deprivation all the time. I've just become used to it. Probably 15 years ago, I got used to it. I just have such a high drive. I have an engine inside of me. I don't know where it comes from, but I have a drive that is like, get it done. And what happens is even when I go to bed early, like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, guess what happens? I wake up at 2. And it's like, I need to go do this. I need to do this. And I just start thinking about all these things I can do. This is why I have a lot of East Coast people that work on my team, is because it gives me the ability to work with people at 5 o'clock my time. It's 8 o'clock their time. And I get so much stuff done in the mornings before West Coast even wakes up. And it's just ways that I've crafted my life because I know I'm going to wake up and I want to get things done. I just want to take over the whole world. I want to see it all. I want to do it all. I don't want to get to a point where I'm 70 years old and say, I haven't seen it all. I haven't done it all. I mean, look at Julie Burkhardt. Like, I joke around about this, but it is something in my mind that I've romanticized. I want to own a big piece of property. Not that I couldn't afford it. I have the money, but like, she's living a portion of Julie Burkhardt's life. I look at that. I'm like, I want that. Right. A portion of Steven from Yuma. I look at his life and being a pilot, I go, I want that. Right. Like, I want a piece of everybody's lives. I adore so many of you guys and moments and pieces of your life. I just want to feel it all. Don't we all? Like, doesn't everybody want to just see and do and feel and taste all the food, travel to all the places, do all the things? Well, guess what? You can't do that shit when you're sleeping. And that's the problem. And so I had to figure out, what if I want to do more, I got to sleep less. That's it. That's the answer.
It's impressive. It's seriously impressive. I wish I could do as much as you do on that little. I mean, but you have a lot of people that worry about you as well. When you are sick in Charlotte, everybody worries about you. So we're very, very impressed by you. But when you show up, the way you show up is insane. I mean, I don't know if people know the story, but just to remind people, Pace was incredibly sick. He had food poisoning when he came down for the Charlotte deal. Where how many units have we got there?
408.
408. I should know that number off the top of my head. He is lying on the floor, sick as a dog, sending his Instagrams out telling us, I don't know if I'm going to make it, but somehow he made it to the plane. He got there, and it was like when we saw him come down into the lobby after he got to the hotel, he spent some time in there. He came down. It was like, my God, this man must have raised himself from the dead to be where he was. You were very pale that evening, but you just turned up, and it's insane.
Since I'm among my friends, I'll tell you, it was so bad. I had food poisoning. So you know what happens? You throw up, you have diarrhea, you can't, everything, right?
Everything comes out, yeah.
Everything comes out. So I'm like, all right, my flight's leaving in 2 hours. So I jump in the shower, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to jump out of the shower to sit on the toilet. And then I have to then throw up immediately after I sit on the toilet. And I jump back in the shower, and I'm having that hot water in my back. I'm like, okay, I feel great. I think I can make it. I think I can make it. And then all of a sudden I got to get out of the shower to go to the bathroom again. This went on for like an hour. And I'm like, there's no way I'm making it. And I finally get out of the shower, and there was that moment. I literally am laying down on my closet floor, and I look up, and I see my Michael Jordan shoes. And they're the famous Michael Jordan flu game shoes, where he had the flu, but he had like an all-time scoring game, won the game, like prolific game. And I look at the flu game shoes, and I go, if Michael Jordan could do it, so can I. So I threw on those flu games. By the way, I've never worn those shoes in my life. I wore them to the North Carolina day. I threw them on, jumped on the plane, and we had a freaking wonderful time in North Carolina. Hanging out with you guys was so fun, and I'm so grateful that you guys, invested in that deal with me. You're my partner on that deal. Like, that's
exactly.
freaking
And my
cool.
wife, Paula, is sending her love to you. She's down in Brazil at the moment, or she'd be sticking her head in as well. So
She's amazing.
Now, did I hear you correct, Pace, that you said we're holding you up from a meetup that you've got?
Yeah, we have an Orlando meetup that started at 9, so it's 9:33 here locally. So I'm going to go down and hang out with the Sub 2 community for an hour and a half or so.
Yeah, no, I know how, having been at some of these events with you, I know how important that is, and I don't want to keep you from our Sub 2 family. They need you and adore having you at those. So we're going to start wrapping it up now, so that we can get you out, folks. I want you to remember, we've got a great show coming up for you on Wednesday of this week. It's going to be an early show. Normally we do our shows on Friday, but this week we're going to be doing Wednesday. We've got the Bash Brothers, Tyler Townsley and Eddie Marin. It's going to be a fantastic show. We're going to be talking about strategies in real estate investing, and we hope that you'll show up for that show. And we appreciate all the comments, all the questions, and Pace, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pace.
Yeah, if there's
thank you guys.
Anything that you would like to highlight for our listeners before you go, any way that they can that they can be involved in a deal that you're doing. I know we mentioned a little bit the little guy deal, and the 60 million is already overcommitted. Anything else you're doing that you'd like to promote just before we jump off?
I have nothing to promote except that I'm proud of you boys. I'm proud to call you my friends. I'm happy that we're all together in the same community. Steve, I knew Steve before I knew anybody else, and like I have a big place in my heart for Steve. And it's interesting. Like, you look at the Bash Brothers, right? I gave them that name, and I get so many people call me, and they go, people that are doing deals. We have a student named Mo in our community. He was on Steve Trang's podcast. I don't know if you guys ever saw this, but he was on Steve Schrank's podcast. He goes, "What other coaching have you taken? What other things have you done?" And he's like, "Oh, I've done tons of coaching. I've done this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah." And Steve was like, "Which one could you never do without?" I don't even know why Steve asked this question, but he asked this question. And Mo says, "If I lost access to Sub 2, I would lose my life." Sub 2 and the community there has meant so much to me. And man, when I heard him say that, it meant the world to me. And him and I had a conversation face to face in Dallas a couple weeks later. And he said, "Pace, the amount of belief that you have in all of your people has those people turn around and pour belief into the people behind them." And he's like, "That is what has made this community. And guys, I believe in you so much. I believe in you. I watch you. I'm watching Justin. I might be studying you guys as much as you're studying me, bro."
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you guys and pouring into people and being here and being a beacon of light and hope and love for everybody. And Yutong, thanks for joining Sub 2 and bringing this guy along, because Justin's been pretty awesome, especially since Clever. He's really like found his path, and I love watching him discover the new version of himself and pulling down, all of those layers to show who he really is underneath there. So I love you guys. I appreciate you tremendously, and thank you for having me here.
We love you too, Pace.
Thank
Love
you.
you. Thank you.
Yeah,
All
big
right, I'm
time.
out. I'm gonna go hang out with the Sub 2 students. I'll see you guys soon.
Do it.
All right. Thank you, Pace.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, man.
And
Thanks,
sorry,
guys.
Myron and whoever else's meetup. We didn't mean to keep Pace this long.
No, it's Alexa.
love you
She's
guys.
good. I've been texting her this whole time. She's good.
And
See you guys.
you guys
See you later.
watching, we love you too. Thank you so much for being here with us for an hour and 36 minutes as we got to share with you someone that we get to hang out with so much, because he gives us so much in this community. He didn't promote it, and he doesn't. He promotes Sub 2 through his students, and we're all students of his. Sub 2 is the greatest community on planet Earth. And please reach out to Steve or Malcolm or myself if you guys are interested in joining. We can help you join the community, and to have that ability to be around that campfire is going to change your life. It's changed ours. And again, we're so excited to have you here. If you're not already a member of the Grow Giver community, please consider joining us over there. The way to join the Grow Giver community is by going to facebook.com/groups/the Grow Giver. That's facebook.com/groups/the Grow Giver. And during the week, this week, I'll be doing broker calls, Q&A, showing you guys how to underwrite multifamily. We might even get into some Zooms where I'm trying to get Malcolm to consider coming on during the week, but he's got a W-2, so he might not be able to, where he can show you guys a little bit deeper how to investigate some of these underwriting deals so that you can find upside and really make yourself valuable to a team. If you're finding these deals, you're getting the brokers to bring you these things. You want to have as much value as possible so that you can get in on that GP side of the deal and really learn. I can, not just speaking for myself, I imagine my brothers here will agree with me. We've learned in just the 3 weeks since we've had our LOI accepted, we have learned so much more in that period of time than all of the books, all of the videos, all the conferences combined beforehand. Would you say that's a fair statement, you guys?
Yeah, 100%.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right on with that. No, I think that like we were talking about earlier, there's no book you can read that can give you that that knowledge, like making a mess and trying to solve the problems does. That's the real education. And if there's anything like to take away from it, I think that you're making a great point, Justin.
Yeah, and like Pace said earlier in the show, like You know, in single family, we've had to put EMDs down of, you know, all of us have put EMDs down of like, you know, $2,000 to $5,000. And, you know, we know that after a certain point of due diligence, it's going to go sort of non-refundable. But in multifamily, I mean, we're talking 1% on a $14.5 million deal or $4 million deal. And to know that that's going hard very early with not very many contingencies, it's going to force us to really up our game. So if you guys are interested in learning how you can take part in this deal and future deals that we have, please join the Grow Giver community. We'll be giving information out there regularly soon. Be on the lookout for links, websites where you can get that information, and just reach out to us one-on-one. We'll love to talk to you. I want to highlight all of these comments that have come in, but there's so many that I really can't. I mean, people just jumping in saying thank you. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you, Steve. People saying happy birthday to Carolina Allen. I mean, I love the family feel that we've got in this place. John, thank you.
Want a loud shout out to our friend Ryan.
Thank you. Ryan, thank you so much. Ryan, who's asking a question earlier, here we go. Ryan said thank you to Pace before Pace jumped out. Ryan has been such a massive help to us.
Yeah.
He is amazing. The Brileys have been such a blessing to us. Victor the Connector, you guys, we love that you guys have joined our community and are interacting with us and being involved in this. We can't wait to see how big this thing gets, and to be able to have you guys run along with us. You're really the wind beneath our wings, and we love you. So thank you so much for joining us. And man, wasn't that an awesome interview, guys? Man,
that was great.
So we will again, we'll be on next week, Wednesday, with the Bash Brothers. It's going to be amazing.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and close this thing down, and just again, thank you guys so much.
And a big shout out to Yara. I've noticed her in the chat.
Yeah, I'm noticing, man, there's so many people I want to highlight. I mean, Ryan again, Iara, Bob. Yeah, love that. 10x Grow Givers, thanks. Yeah. So
we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. So you guys are awesome. You're amazing. We love you, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.
Oh.